What's going on, everybody? We are back with Master Crafted, and today we're going to do a little bit something different, not as much tips and tricks, and just more talking about some things we're currently unhappy with in the game. And today's topic is challenger cards. Phil, what do you think of when you think of challenger cards?
Another level of randomness that I don't want to have to deal with. It's another level of 9 additional cards that I now have to know. That way I can plan for the eventuality that my opponent can either get 3 easy victory points, or for some of them, a game-breaking ability that their army wouldn't normally have. So advance in charge, +6 to their base movement, go back into deep strike, right? Like all those things are now things I'm going to have to think about as I play the game, on top of all the other things that I have to think about when playing the game. So yeah, it's another level of randomness. That is the first thing I think of.
Yeah, and welcome back to the show, Frankie. I did not say it to start with, but it's always good to have you back on. What's been your recent experience with challenger cards, and how have they probably boned you recently?
Kind of just the opposite, actually, which is bizarre, but I still dislike them very much. First of all, I think they really slow the game down a lot. It's another rule that you have to go check real quick, even, mid-game. You're like, oh, you got renewed focus. Oh, let me look that up real quick and see what that is, because they don't come up every turn, so you don't get ingrained in your head the way that secondaries and primaries do, I don't think. And I feel like the way that the whole thing was designed, it has to be designed by people who don't really play the game. So yesterday, I played 2 games and I got challenger cards in both games. My opponent did not get challenger cards, and I won both games, one of them by 36 points. But I got a challenger card turn 3 because that's just how the game state was. I was definitely winning, but it just hadn't gotten ahead on points yet. I was in incredible position. I was basically tabling him, and I did table him, but I got a challenger card turn 3 because he was up by 6 points. It's absolutely bizarre, and it doesn't make any sense. I was very clearly winning the game. We both knew I was, and I get a challenger card this turn. Okay, so I got an extra 3 points for literally no reason. These have to be banned from teams. I don't think you can have these in a teams tournament. Period. That's my initial thoughts.
That's crazy, though. Being able to maybe that's, I've been looking at them wrong. I just need to say, screw it. Who cares about primary? Who cares about secondary? My whole goal for the first 3 turns is to I'm not going to stand on objectives. I'm just going to punch you in the teeth and try to kill as much as I can while saying scoring doesn't matter, because I'm going to have 3 turns 3 through 5, to get a free 9 points while I'm still winning the board state in terms of material.
Yeah, I mean, I think you still need to score, right? Like, you still need to play the game. I know you're just, tongue in cheek there a little bit, but it doesn't account for the way that the game actually works. Like, because, games are often, even in a blowout, they'll often be really close for 3 or 4 turns, and they could be within a few points. But, I'm saving up for that turn 4 or turn 5 push where I've figured out where my advantage is and how I'm going to take the game, and I get a challenger card, even though I'm about to just table somebody in the next turn. It's absolutely nuts.
And the majority of the time is, as the person going, if I go second, I have I have perfect information to know I can maybe not get max area denial or do whatever the case is to make sure I am more than 6 points behind. The challenger card is determined at the beginning of the battle round, and then I will draw on my turn, right? So I, as the person going second, who already is in a dominant position because they are going second, and that's the way chapter approved 25-26 works, right? The individual going second definitely has a advantage in that sense. But then you layer on top of the fact that they have pretty much control of whether they want to get a challenger card or not, which is ridiculous because your person going first has to get a points advantage. Like they have to. They will lose the game if we both get to 5 and I have assets left and you have assets left and the game is close. It just chapter approved 25-26. These missions and layouts. If you're going second, I will have a 25-point final turn. And you can't get that as the person going first because I score at the end of my turn and you score at the beginning. So it's like, okay, well, you have to get a points advantage, which means I'm probably getting challenger cards, which probably means I'm going to be even further ahead by the time we get to the point where I'm engaging in the game for points denial and doing those things. So it's like, man, you are in a tough spot. We were talking about this before the show. For those that are that like challenger cards, I'm not saying you can't use them. We are saying that in a competitive environment, they do not fit with what competitive 40K is. And I'm going to caveat that with, I've heard people say it on Instagram and YouTube, and I want to believe that they're just like, making a meal of it, but they'll talk about like 40K is too random to be competitive. You are wrong. Okay? That would mean that a player like John Lennon is just the luckiest individual in the world, and he is not doing things that reduce variables, reduce chance to put him in the best position to win every time, right? His win-loss record, as well as all the top individuals in the country, they are not winning because they are more lucky than you are. They are making better decisions and better game plans that reduce the variance as much as possible, that give them the best opportunity to win every single game. When you make a mistake, they are not, right? Positioning, shooting lanes, understanding of rules, all those things. When you make those mistakes, they aren't. That is a competitive game. And I don't know a competitive game that gives you a benefit when you are behind. Like chess, you don't get free pieces back when you make a mistake. And that's not how it works. You make a mistake, you are punished for that mistake, and we continue going on. Now, in a non-competitive environment, do whatever you want. You want challenger cards, you want something fun and thematic, absolutely. Frank said it, and I think it's going to actually, because we haven't had a teams tournament here yet with challenger cards, but 40K Fight Club is going down to Utah in September. No, August? September?
Yeah, September. Yeah.
Okay. Are you guys going down as well, right?
Yeah, we're
Yep.
going. We're going
Yep.
to.
So we'll be down in Utah, and if challenger cards are still going on down there, you're going to see a lot more draws. You're going to see a lot more close games, and you're going to see a lot more team draws as well.
Right. And you already have a ton of those in a team's environment. There
Correct.
are already a lot of ties. It's going to make it 100 times worse.
Yep. So I'm not looking forward to that. If I was a TO, I'd be seriously evaluating the value of challenger cards, but it can't come from like a local TO. Lane and I were talking about it. It can't come from your local guy. We need it standardized across the meta, right? WTC and FLG, they need to be on the same page and just be like, hey, we're done. We're not keeping these anymore. You can use it for whatever you want, but it won't be for tournaments.
I think you said it really well. The fact of the matter is that most players are not competitive players in Warhammer. If you look at the pure statistics, most players play like fun narrative games or whatever. That's not what we do, and that's not what a lot of the people that I play with do. That's actually very rare among the people that I play 40K with, and that's fine. It's two different ways to play the game. I think the challenger cards could be super fun if you don't care about, winning a tournament or trying to win a tournament or just getting better at the strategy and playing the game. Cool, man. Yeah, have a blast with it. But I don't think they belong in any competitive environment at all, especially teams, though. They don't work.
And I think one of the big points that you brought up, Phil, talking about John Lennon, when you're able to take away variables as a player, that's very good. When I'm taking away variables because I go second and I can go, okay, cool. Well, I'm going to sack 1 or 2 points this turn so that I have an additional secondary, basically, that's free for me to score. That's a variable I get to control that my opponent going first has no ability to control. And that's not a balanced game. That is not fair.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head, right? And it doesn't cap. That's the other problem, right? If it capped on secondaries or primaries, I would feel a little bit better about it, but it doesn't. It's a fully separate points pool. So it's you can make up points in either one, and it just pushes your points total higher than it normally would be. I would be
12, up to 12 points.
Exactly. So it's
that's 2 points in teams. That's 2 full points in team.
Correct. And it's why is that the case? Why is it not at least funneled into secondaries or primaries? That way they are potentially capped in one way or another. Because now it's just this weird, ambiguous thing that lives outside the game, but has such a huge impact in it. So obviously I've played a few games of Chapter Approved 25-26, things that have stood out to me that have benefited me or hurt me as someone who has gotten challenger cards. There was a point where I had a 10-man Plague Marine squad, and I pulled the challenger card for plus D6 movement. That pretty much gives me advance and charge. With a 10-man Plague Marine with fights first, and the plus D6 movement it doesn't mean they advance. They just move an additional D6 inches, which means all of my Meltas, Flamers, all that stuff still get to shoot and charge you. And I rolled a 4 on it, so they moved 9 inches. And then they shot the shit out of some stuff, and then they charged in and killed almost a full unit of Blood Crushers. And it was my Plague Marines should not be able to do that. And my opponent can't plan for those things. Right? Being able to 6-inch pile in and consolidate. That's one of the, Lane and I talked about it. That's one of the questions I ask my opponent at the beginning of the game. Like, hey, can anyone 6-inch pile in and consolidate? And now everyone's just going to turn and go, ha, I could do it on a challenger card. I'm like, I can't. I want to know what your army does. And the challenger cards make it that much harder to do.
I mean,
And it's not fair to new
Uppy
players
Downy
as well.
is one too.
Uppy Downy is one. Yeah, absolutely.
Like, for armies that can't do that, like that is enormous. That is a game state changing stratagem when your army cannot do that normally.
Yeah, like my Plague Marines. Like Death Guard being able to do that is insane.
And my biggest problem too is the fact that it's a free strat. They are so insanely strong, and they're free.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Not only are you behind and you're gonna get rewarded, it's gonna cost you nothing to take advantage of this insanely good stratagem. You don't have to budget for it. You don't have to do anything. You just use it. Like, how in the world does that make any sense?
And you can't vect it either. It can't be affected by +1 CP.
Nope.
And like, it's just, you just get it, right? The only thing, thank goodness, if they did this as well, it would have been mighty annoying. You can't store them. So at the end of the battle round, they are gone. Thank freaking goodness, because that would just put this beyond. Could you imagine like having a stack of those and being like, yep, I have 3 of these cards and I'm going to use them all my final turn.
Yeah, you draw the one that gives you extra D6 movement. You get the one that allows you to go through all models and walls. You know, just all the bullshit. Yeah, you're just
Fall
like,
back
okay.
and charge, advance and charge, advance shoot and charge, fall back, shoot and charge.
Yeah.
Again, another one for Death Guard. Like,
right?
How insanely good is that on Plague Marines or Death Shroud Terminators? Like,
yep. That's the one thing that they don't have. They don't have advance and charge. And you're telling me I can get that?
They shouldn't. They're supposed to be slow.
And I think the biggest thing for me is literally whenever I've tried to be like, oh, like what is Warhammer? It's a gentleman's game. It's like chess in the fact that I know everything you can do, and you know everything I can do. We are all aware of all information, and this just fucking hucks that out the goddamn window and says, okay, well, we'll see what we draw. You know, like that's so ridiculous to me. The fact that it's like a large enough pool, you can't really plan around it, you know, and it's really not that hard to obtain as a going second player.
I think you guys are feeling, I don't remember if you guys played, but this is how I felt moving into 10th from 9th, and it just with the card system in general. So they had a card system in 9th that was kind of for casual games. And other than that, you had like secondaries that you could pick from or whatever. And they even had army-based ones. And so I liked that idea, even though some armies really got screwed. They got terrible secondaries. But like moving us into this era, like you said, it's more variance. The cards on secondaries, that already is a like big point of variance that really can change the outcome of the game depending on what secondaries you draw when. And then adding another layer of that on top is just, it's a lot. It's just, it really randomizes things to an extreme level.
Yeah. I've heard the argument made that it's like, it's for newer players because it's like, you know, help them get into the game and it keeps games closer and more engaging. I'm gonna push back on that a little bit. If I'm going to teach someone the game of 40K and I'm going to try to help them, and I've taught plenty of people the game of 40K, and I would explain them my rules, and then I was going to help them with their rules, and I was going to explain all these secondaries, and then the primary mission. And then after I'm done doing all of that, I'm going to say, okay, now there's these 9 cards that may come up completely random. Even though I told you what my army can do, they can potentially do one of these 9 things, or I can just be scoring more additional points outside how I just told you how we need to score points. Does that seem like something a new player is going to be able to latch onto? 40K is complicated enough, right? Like I'm under no illusion that it is not beginner friendly. It is not like if we're going to talk about 2,000 points of Warhammer 40K, that is a tough place to start. I would not advise anyone to do that. You need to start with like Crusade at 500 points, understand the rules, work your way up from there, and then you can get to 2,000 when you feel comfortable. Because like if your aspiration is to do tournaments, great, I love that, but you're on a clock. And you have to know your rules pretty down pat. Not to say that people don't make mistakes, it happens. But to do those things at that level, you need practice with those things. But if I were to say, okay, now we have these 9 random variances that you will also have to take into consideration, that does not seem like something I want to tell a new player. On top of all the other things that they have to learn, why are we adding complexity to something that is already complex enough?
I don't know. I feel like we need to not just purely shit on them, even though I think we would all like to see them just gone. So maybe let's try to have a little constructive criticism. Maybe old James Workshop will see our tiny little show here and be like, maybe that is a good idea on how I could fix that. Or maybe some of the TOs who are running some of these larger events to be like, all right, this is the system we're implementing. That way, this toilet paper is not only for wiping your ass, it can be used in the game. It's viable. What would be your alternatives to still keep challenger cards in the game and not just completely huck them?
I don't know if I can answer that question. I don't know, man. Maybe if it was, God, I can't think of a really good reason, not in this form at all. Maybe Phil has some ideas. I'm at a loss.
I do have one, and I've like beat this up pretty good because I think it's the only solution I would be okay with. At the beginning of the game, each player would draw 2 challenger cards and reveal them both. Each player, like you and I, would draw 2 challenger cards, reveal them both. At any point during the game, during the battle round, if I am down by, and I'm not going to say 6 because I think that's too close, I'm going to say if you're down by more than 10, you get to use one of those challenger cards. And you can use only one of those challenger cards once per game, right? So you have a pool of 2. Your opponent knows what those 2 are. They were revealed to you. And then you could pick one of those at some point during the game when you were down by 10. Like, you could do it as the same metric. Like, you are the challenger at the beginning of the battle round. If you are down by 10, okay, this turn I could use one of these 2 cards. And you saw it at the beginning of the game, you know exactly the ones that I could get. And if I was like, if they forced me hands tied, like, we're going to keep challenger cards, you just got to find a way to use them, that would be the way I would use them.
I like that. That's smart. Still not quite as good as lighting them on fire, but still pretty good.
Yeah, I think, and we've talked some about this already, Phil, as just alternatives and stuff. And I think, it's fairly similar. I think the biggest thing is, like you're saying, I think you just need to still say at the start of the round, I will use my challenger card this round. Because those stratagems are still so game-breakingly good that if I'm hanging this strat of move through whatever you have, or this extra movement for multiple turns, and I'm just threatening you with that while keeping that maintained, that changes how you have to play the game for multiple turns, and I don't think that's fair still, right? If I'm going to say, all right, I have these cards, if I'm down by, the 10 or more, I have to say, okay, I will use this turn, one of them, doesn't matter if it's a scoring or a strat, and your opponent, who's probably going first, is going to have to go, okay, well, I need to watch out for these 2 possible strats, which is still dumb as hell. And I'm going to have to maybe be attentive to what the secondaries might be. The problem is the secondaries are basically equivalent of have a fucking pulse. They're not hard at all, And so, you still are just putting whoever goes first in such a pickle for the one turn that I think that's enough. But if you do not use any of it, you just lose it. They're gone for the game. You cannot dangle the threat of 2 insanely good strats that still should honestly go up to 1 CP still in the same scenario, and then you're done. You either use the strat, you use the scoring, and then it's just over. You have to say though at the start of the turn when it's determined if you are in range or not, whether or not you are going to use it, because we cannot have that dangling over whoever's going first.
That's reasonable.
I do have a lot of faith in the competitive community though, the TOs and things like that. Sometimes they screw some things up, but I think this is something that they'll address. They have to, and I think they'll probably come up with a good solution. I think your idea sounded great, Phil. I think ultimately they probably should just not have it in competitive 40K. Keep it around, whatever you want, but not in competitive. It's just it doesn't fit. It doesn't work right.
And I'm even fine with you pick out of the deck. Pick one out of the deck in the same scenario. You can pick it. I just need to know that it could happen, and you will let me know when it can. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all you get. Maybe an extra 3 points or 1 strat you could use once. And that is more than plenty to help you try to catch up if you're down by more than 10.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Pick one? Oh, that would be insane, though.
That would be. I know what it is.
It would be.
100% know.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Absolutely.
And I have one too, and I'll just throw the game so I can use mine too because we're done with it.
What would you take with your death guard, Phil? The 6-inch move? A D6
advance and
move is,
charge.
advance, fallback, shoot, and charge. Yeah.
Yeah, and then plus D6 move.
Yeah, plus D6 move for sure.
Could you imagine like my Death Shroud Terminators with that?
That's what I'm taking too. I'm not playing hammer. Let me just. Oh, you tagged my Dorn. Sucks to suck.
Yeah.
That didn't
Sorry.
matter. Boom to the face. Like, it's so dumb. I don't want the ability to do that. I don't want you to have the ability to do that.
Right.
We're playing a fair, competitive game.
Yeah.
But and like Frankie was saying, I do have faith they will fix this. But that's a lot less exciting of a video where we can't talk about just how garbage this is.
That is more fun. I do like to bet.
We will pat them on the back when it is fixed. But in the meantime, why are we playing with this? It's not good for competitive. Any actual close game where you are playing top of turn, where it's kind of close, the 6 points is nothing. It really is nothing. As going second, you should be down by 6.
Mhm.
If whoever is going first is playing correctly, and you're just going to get punished for it, for playing the game how you should be playing going first in any other meta.
Yeah, for sure.
Any competitive game. Phil mentioned chess. You could talk about baseball, football, any competitive game of any kind. When do you get rewarded for getting your ass kicked? Like, it's not, and then on top of that, you're not even getting your ass kicked, like, necessarily. You might be winning the game and you're getting these. Like, it's just, I think the entire concept of how it is supposed to work, it just doesn't work that way. And it needs to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, I'm just playing chess. Move your queen through any amount of models.
Yeah.
Crazy. You're in checkmate. Suck it. Like, what the hell? That's just not. It just, yeah, I hate it.
Yep. So how about getting into transports with bases?
I think
I'm not allowing that. I don't care.
GW said yes, so I'm doing it this weekend with my rhinos. My 10 mana of Plague Marine, they're stringing out.
Last Saturday,
You're gonna have to put your rhino on a base for it to work, though. It doesn't work.
I'll do it. I'll do it.
Oh, you better not, because I'm up there playing.
Yeah, people running repulsors like crazy.
Oh.
God, so dumb. I'm really curious. We're going up to Billings the week after next. I'm very curious what the TOs up there are going to rule on that.
Yeah, thankfully the rules cutoff for this weekend already happened. You don't have to worry about
That's true.
No, not going to happen. Yeah. If that was happening, if I let you all use those rules, the Space Wolves players would come and kick my ass for not allowing them to play with their wolves this weekend. And I allowed that shit. So yeah, that's not happening. We're just gonna y'all just enjoy your challenger cards. That's what we have in store for you. Up at the
Yay!
I have a plan for that. I have a plan.
No, you got to. That's just the way it works now. You just have to be like, all right, how can I abuse it? How can I make sure I'm the one drawing these game-breaking things?
Correct.
I mean, it's kind of cool. I'm going to win by 33 points instead of 30 when we play.
Have my revenge. What are you taking this weekend? What are you running?
Death Guard.
Death Guard versus Death Guard.
Virulent for me. You're running champs.
I am, yeah. With quite a few drones.
See if we get the rematch from the last GT I had up here. Y'all played for first place, so
it was fun.
We did.
Frankie can go 2 for 2 on YO Hammer GT wins. If he comes across Phil, I might as well just bet on him at this point. He is the favorite to win. I will never bet against Phil coming in second for any tournament. That's
especially on a 4-up. That's my favorite. On a 4-up coming in second. Oh, that's tough, man.
All right, we're getting sidetracked talking about way too specific stuff. Hopefully, y'all enjoyed our little rant here about the worst part of 40K currently, worse than Death Guard even. It is challenger cards. They do suck. Hopefully, they will get patched soon. But in the meantime, have some fun out there. Do your best to go second. And do not forget that victory is a given. It's forged. And it's forged right here on Master Drafted. We'll see y'all next time.